clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Pro Tem Mayor Notes.
Here.
Alderman Novit. Here. Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Walder.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Biddy. The first item on our agenda is the report of city officer. Jason? The one thing I said I was going to get right tonight. I'm sorry. The Pledge of Allegiance, please. If everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With that, the first item on the agenda is the report of city officers.
Comments by Mayor.
Comments by Mayor. Okay. A quick reminder that opportunities to have coffee in the park with the city council, my fellow aldermen, are coming up in the next few weeks. This is an informal opportunity to chat with us, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy the morning with us in the parks. Our first ward meetings are for Ward 1 and 2, and they're scheduled for September 14th. There's more information on the city website about that, and hope we can see you there. Before we get to the first item on the agenda, I would like to say a few words about John Burke. After a competitive nationwide search, we're excited for John to join Lake Forest as the new chief of police. John brings over 26 years of law enforcement experience and most recently served as the chief of police at the Barrington Police Department. His emphasis on community engagement and on community policing make him an excellent fit for our department and the community. We look forward to welcoming him to Lake Forest. And just speaking on behalf of the fellow council, we had the opportunity to meet John a few weeks ago, and just an impressive fellow, and look forward to the residents of the city getting to know him and his involvement here in the city. With that, election by the city council and appointment by the mayor is required by charter and city code. City marshal, collector, and chief of police, John Burke. May I have a motion to approve the mayor's appointment? Ask for a second, and all in favor or opposed? Or...
So moved. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, Chief Burke, welcome aboard. If you'd please come up to the front.
Hi.
Hi.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, John Burke,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the constitutions of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
and will diligently enforce the laws of the state of Illinois
and will diligently enforce the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Lake Forest,
and the city of Lake Forest,
and that I will faithfully execute the duties of
and I will faithfully execute the duties of
city marshal,
city marshal,
collector,
collector,
and chief of police
and chief of police
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Eric and Daniel, can
Yes.
you invite them up for the penny?
endurance. It means a lot to me. My friends and family are here to share this moment with me, and I would like to thank Mayor Tack and the City Council and Jason Winship for giving me the opportunity to take this position in such a great city and a great PD. Thank you. One more. Thank you.
Before we move off the agenda item, I do want to let the public in attendance and on television be aware that there is a great opportunity to meet Chief Burke. There are two upcoming sessions on the 16th and 17th. The first is at Market Square on the 16th from 4 to 6, and then on Tuesday, September 17th from 9 to 11. I really hope you'll take the opportunity. It certainly won't be your last opportunity to meet with Chief Burke, but certainly a nice opportunity as he's getting, hits the road running. So with that, the next item on our agenda is comments by City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And before I begin with my comments, I'll pause for a minute or two so those that are here for Chief Burke's appointment and swearing in have the opportunity to leave and celebrate without having to listen to the rest of our meeting. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for everyone's record, Biddy was very good about preparing me to say that. That's not me. Thank you, Biddy. Thanks, Glenn. All right, Jason, with that.
thank you very much, Mayor, members of City Council. Good evening. Tonight we have two community spotlights from two of the closest and long-standing partners that we have here with the city, remarkable civic and community institutions. First, I think it's becoming an annual tradition to have Open Lands come back in early September, both to highlight their fall programming as well as spotlight one of the signature events that they host every single year. And so with that, I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Ryan London, the president and CEO of Open Lands, and turn it over to him.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and the members of the City Council. As Jason mentioned, I'm Ryan London, President and CEO for Lake Forest Open Lands. And on behalf of our Board of Governors, our talented staff, and our dedicated volunteers, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to provide the community with an update on all things Lake Forest Open Lands. So for the last 57 years, it's been our privilege to be our community's independently funded conservation and education organization devoted to preserving and stewarding our incredible local natural landscapes and ensuring that all are welcome and fully able to experience nature. Our core work has been driven by our four core beliefs. We conserve and steward our local natural places because we believe they are fundamental in the equation of healthy people, healthy land, and clean water. And it's safe to say we need nature as much as nature needs us, which means it's not a tangential service. So we believe it's critically important to approach our work each day through the lens of creating an environment where all people of the community feel welcomed, respected, and encouraged to fully participate however they are able. But it's often too much to go at it alone, and so we embrace all forms of collaboration. Our education partnerships alone have allowed us to engage and inspire over 80,000 students during the history of our programming. And we deeply value the community's trust in our ethical and fiscally responsible approach to our work. Initially recognized as the state of Illinois' first nationally accredited land trust in 2009 and every 5 years since, we are committed to the national standards in transparency, accountability, and responsibility. Northeast Illinois, and our part of the county in particular, has the highest density of rare and unique species found in the entire state. This is demonstrated by the fact that Lake Forest Open Lands has 3, soon to be 4 dedicated Illinois nature preserves, which is the highest level of land protection offered in the state. We are truly blessed to have this natural fabric to work within as a market, but it's the proven think outside mindset of our community that's been the enterprise which has and will continue to allow us to make the necessary progress. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the decision by our all-volunteer-led board to hire the organization's first staff member. And we've since grown to 15 staff members, 11 of which are entirely devoted to programming. All of us share in the alignment and ignited passion to work for a community organization that rallies behind a cause that's bigger than ourselves. So please come by the office anytime, corner of Deer Path and Waukegan, and visit with us. It would be a treat for us to show you around. Just last month, our summer internship program celebrated its 27th class of participants. Now having trained over 175 current and future conservation leaders, this is a program that's near and dear to my heart, and one of the best opportunities nationally for college students to apply their studies within a community steeped in conservation values. This summer, our interns, over 9 weeks, stewarded our 900 acres of preserves. They conducted ravine and shoreline erosion monitoring. They spent 1 day each week training with a regional conservation partner off-site. Here they're working with the Illinois Nature Preserves to learn how to girdle invasive aspen trees. They did rare species monitoring, including mist netting for bats, and our interns just helped tremendously with the care of the land and the maintenance of our 20 miles of trails. But we couldn't do it without the collaboration from our volunteer partners, who annually contribute over 6,000 hours of volunteer work with our organization. Every week, there are 2 expert-led volunteer opportunities, every Wednesday and every Saturday or Sunday, depending on the week, for volunteers to learn how to plant, how to collect seeds, how to connect with their local environment through action. We happily host custom-tailored group work days for corporate partners, for faith-based community groups, for even for schools. This is Lake Forest Country Day just last Friday. We also, the first Saturday of every month, host our Eco Crew, which is an opportunity to volunteer with our land stewardship team and pick up skills. This summer, our contractor crews have been busy since May, constructing the boardwalks and the trails, which will add nearly a mile of all accessible trails for nature lovers of all abilities. The Carruthers Nature Preserve is a project that goes back nearly 2 decades, and we are thrilled to finally bring this amazing neighborhood preserve into service for the community. We are taking advantage of this project to deal with some failed stormwater infrastructure, as well as improve neighborhood flooding. The final step of the project this fall will be to plant 100 oak trees donated by Mariani Landscapes. So this is just one of 6 semi-trucks of trees that they donated. Before the snow flies this winter, we will also be completing the Jamie Field River Walk and Trail in our Skokie River Nature Preserve. This will be the first fully accessible river walk and trail on the Lake Forest stretch of the Skokie River. This will be our 3rd nature preserve with an accessible trail, and it represents a total investment of all 3 combined of over $5 million on making nature more inclusive in Lake Forest. In 2022, we also partnered to offer the very first all-access track-driven wheelchair in Illinois, available for anyone to use free of charge. We believe that it is our duty to ensure nature is available to all. And this year we decided to purchase our very own unit. It's completely silent, it's reservable through our website, like the previous one, and it's user-friendly, that can be self-driven, or it can be driven by a caretaker remotely from behind. We're thrilled to be working with the Illinois Nature Preserve Commission on dedicating our 4th Illinois Nature Preserve, West Fork Savannah. This was the largest land donation in our organization's history, where 120 acres were spared from development and 20 acres have been returned back into working lands where one of our community's oldest private working farms again has cows, chickens, horses, and goats. And 18 months ago, we opened the Green Nature Preserve, which created a Lake Forest Open Lands Preserve within walking distance of all 4 wards. I apologize, I haven't been back up here since then. And since then, we have had over 7,000 visitors, including this guy last spring, which was our first beaver in this watershed in our records. And then just last week, it was announced that Lake Forest Open Lands, I know that's really tiny, we were awarded a $10,000 grant to plant native plants at Carroll Meadow to support ongoing work with our partnership with the city for this important City of Lake Forest owned property along the Meadow Fork Greenway. It was identified as a priority property in the 2022 strategic assessment done by Hay and Associates, and it'll follow up on 4 active years of management out there that included input from leaders from both of our organizations as well as neighborhood residents. On the engagement side, our programming has hosted over 10 different summer camps offering opportunities to create and learn in nature for youth ages 18 months to 15 years. Our Center for Conservation Leadership sent its 9th trip to Yellowstone, and we also sent our first trip to Owakonzie, that's that upper picture. Owakonzie is a remote canoeing outpost, entirely off-grid in the Arctic watershed up in Ontario, Canada. We've also continued to bring our special boat building curriculum to the region, which is a fun and powerful way to build confidence and develop STEM skills. Our seasoned instructors have guided students through the process of building a skin-on-frame canoe and testing them. They work, they float, and we have 3 more scheduled for the next winter, as well as a new snowshoe building program for the community. Looking ahead, there are many different ways for our residents, both old and new, to experience Lake Forest Open Lands. We offer community engagement opportunities for all, from toddlers to elders, for those who prefer to learn in the classroom, to those that like to be out in the field, for those who like to block out their calendar months and weeks in advance, or those who like to pop up events. It's been our honor to connect nature with the hearts and minds of our communities, young and old ones, from all of our local schools and beyond. Our engagement staff and volunteers are looking forward to the start of our fall programs. So for adults, every Tuesday, I'm actually going to be stopping by there tonight on my way home. You have sunset yoga at our conservation campus. Later this month, we're going to resume our guided weekly hikes. So those are bird watching lessons, Tuesdays on the trails, family campfires. There's really something for everyone. And our brand new website has a filterable calendar, so you can search whatever you're looking for. Youth programming, adult programming, volunteering, social events. September alone has 15 different events. October has 19, and you can search to get nature exactly how you want it. Our next monthly conservation cocktails will be Vic Berardi from Illinois Hawk Watch. We are in peak migration right now. It seems a little bit early, but we had over 40 million birds come through Lake County last spring, and they're all making their way back through right now. Though we regularly host the 371st Transportation Detachment for their training rucks, we will be hosting a special Veterans Day hike on National Take a Hike Day, November 16th. That'll be at our conservation campus. We'll have multiple wheelchairs available, and that's at our Melody Farm Preserve. And as Jason mentioned, September in Lake Forest means our final goodbye to summer and the start of fall as we host our annual fundraiser. Bagpipes and bonfires taking place on September 29th from 4 to 7 at Middle Fork Farm Nature Preserve. This year's event chairs are Sandy and Roger Daramidi. This one-of-a-kind, multi-generational, family favorite event invites our entire community to join us. Tickets are available on our website, and please also support our community partners. Jay McLaughlin is having an event on September 19th, and Smith's Men's Store on the 27th and 28th. Lastly, our native plant sale is the last Saturday in October. Native plants are absolutely critical for our planet's building blocks, which are our insects. Insects pollinate 75% of our crops globally. This is a service that is valued at $577 billion alone. I use this chart because you see mammals down in the very bottom right corner near the 4 o'clock mark. There are as many ladybug species as all the mammals combined, and this is where our next mass extinction is taking place. The most important thing that we can do is plant native plants A single oak tree can support over 534 native species, and truly, if you build it, they will come. We see our community as one big connected matrix of habitats. The plants, the birds, the pollinators, the insects, they don't recognize property lines, and we're increasingly finding that nature already has the valuable answers to both the tangible and the intangible problems. So whatever your interest or your involvement, there is something at Lake Forest Open Lands for everyone here. Our focus is truly on delivering on the everyone part. And as I mentioned before, our community has provided the brain trust of innovation all along in our organization's history, much like the tradition of service with our city's boards and committees. I welcome and encourage anyone interested in assisting us to call us, email us, tag us in a social media post, and we will make sure that we plant you right where you belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Needless to say, Lake Forest Open Lands is a treasure of the community, and very fortunate to have you, and thank you for all the activities and planning you've done, and look forward to getting on that website myself and looking at that calendar and finding some fun things to do this fall.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, with that, Jason, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the presentation and, of course, your leadership for the organization, too. Thank you. Our second community spotlight tonight is timely for us for a couple of reasons. One, because it gives us the opportunity to celebrate a recent program award that the city received, but also it's timely given a lot of the current happenings out at Ellowa Farm. And so before I turn it over to Laura Calvert, the executive director of the Ellowa Farm Foundation, I did want to take the opportunity to plug the recent 2024 Community Partnership Program Excellence Award that the city received from the International City County Management Association. For those that aren't familiar, ICMA is the world's leading association of professional city and county managers and administrators. Their awards program is highly competitive, and in fact, this year there are only it's all right. There are only 3 communities in the entire country that received this award, us being one of those 3. And I think the fact that we were able to win the award speaks to the partnership that has been developed and cultivated over many years, but particularly over the last couple of years, as we've seen the relationship grow with the foundation taking on the footprint of the entire Ellowa campus. And so I just want to give a couple thanks here before I turn it over to Laura, because there really has been an enormous amount of work that has happened to nurture and grow that relationship over the last few years. And a lot of that certainly starts with the city staff who've been involved in this, Kathy and her team that helped navigate the entire special use permitting process. That was, a long road for us, but really has, I think, developed a model that works well for the community, for the surrounding neighborhood, and of course for the foundation. Our building maintenance staff, led by Eric Houston, who do a remarkable job maintaining the buildings out there on the campus, which allows the foundation to really focus more on their mission. Elizabeth Holub was critical in developing the lease structure for the new agreement that we have in place that I think is serving both parties very well at this point. And so, again, there was a lot of staff involved in this. I want to make sure I also acknowledge Dana Olson and George Osako for putting the award application together. They're the one who made the compelling story come to life. I'm just the one who gets to go out to the national conference and accept the award on behalf of everybody else. But really, it's been a team effort from the staff perspective. And then last and not least, of course, I want to thank Laura Calvert, the director for the Ellowa Farm Foundation. It really has been an incredible partnership over the last 3 years or so, and a lot of that is a testament to her leadership, her willingness to collaborate and communicate, not only in developing a strong working relationship with the city, but again, with a lot of the other players and entities who exist out there, whether it be the local HOA, open lands, the Lake County Forest Preserve. There are a lot of entities out there, and she's really done a remarkable job. So it's been a pleasure to work with her, and as she's now going to share that this is an exciting time for the campus and for the Ellowa Farm Foundation as well. And so I'm going to invite her up to tell her story and to let the council and the community know what they can expect in the weeks and months ahead.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Good evening, members of City Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. I just want to send a congratulations to Jason and your team. This is well-deserved, and at Ellowa, we are honored to be included in the partnership, so well done. Okay, so I think the last time I was here was about a year ago in October when we were standing before you asking for approval for full use of the Ellowa Farm campus and just the new uses that we would have going on at the property. So a lot has happened in that year. We have been busy with design, construction projects, campus expansion. So I just wanted to take a few minutes tonight to let you know where we are with our progress. So for the first time in our organizational history, we now have full use of the campus with the departure of Wildlife Discovery Center. We're really excited to lean into being a year-round destination for our local community, to stretch our wings and have more mission-based programs, and to root them in our values of stewardship, sustainability, and accessibility. So we've come a long way, and we look forward to impacting so many more with our growth. Here's just a reminder of the new spaces that are open to us now at the foundation. So all of the color boxes were rooms or outdoor spaces formerly occupied by wildlife. So we have a 3-phase growth plan of implementing new infrastructure and programs in that space, and you can kind of see what these new spaces are. So right now, before I get there, before we started all the construction, the city had their construction project of the parking lot. And I just want to say thank you so much. That has been such a game changer for us at Ellowa. It's a much safer lot. It looks so much nicer. And this summer, I've seen maybe only 1 or 2 times where the traffic has spilled out to Middle Fork Road. So thank you again for investing in that project. I think it's really paid off, and I hear feedback almost on a daily basis of just how much nicer it is and more convenient. So thank you. So we are wrapping up phase 1 of our growth plan. We started this spring with building a small goat barn. We now have a herd of 6 baby dwarf goats, which are a huge hit with our community. You can see them there on their little structures that they like to climb on. Behind that, we have our chicken coop and our duck run. So we have 10 laying hens and 10 ducks. We collect the eggs for our kitchen, and we really wanted to keep animals at Ellowa. We knew it was a huge draw with Wildlife Discovery Center, and we wanted to honor them as well as our past. So we have some small, pretty nuisance-free animals, which have just been so well received and popular by the community. So we've developed some really fun farm animal programs like goat yoga, which is a huge hit, believe it or not. All of our summer campers get to come in and meet the goats and the ducks and chickens. We have, reserved cuddle time on the weekends, as well as just these animals being open to view on a daily basis all throughout the year. So it's been nice to have those animals go, live in the spot where folks are used to seeing animals on the Ellowa campus. Also part of phase 1 is the development of our cafe and production kitchen. This is a design rendering from Mark Nauer. We've partnered with his design and architecture firm for the design of the cafe and the kitchen. We expect construction to be complete next week. We are waiting on ComEd to upgrade the electrical, which is going to happen this Thursday. So this has been a huge undertaking, developing a modern kitchen inside a historic building. And I just want to say thank you to Kathy Cerniak and her team for all your support along the way with inspections and permitting. This has been a complex project, and I just appreciate all of your flexibility and responsiveness throughout the way. Thank you. Here's a couple pictures of where we are at now. This is our Happy Culinary team standing in front of their new hotline with the new cold walk-in box behind them. The other photo is the start of our counter area. So it's hard to imagine this is going to be furnished and pretty much ready by the end of next week, but all of the major work has happened, in the past couple of months. So we're, at the exciting point of having finishing touches. We have a ribbon cutting scheduled for September 19th, and we anticipate opening to the public that weekend of the 20th, 21st, or the following weekend. So we are actively hiring, R&Ding with our menu. So it's just a really exciting time, and we're thrilled to have our cafe serve as an amenity to the Elua campus. As if we did not have, stuff to do this summer, we also installed a new garden on the farm side of the property. This is a Discovery Hive garden. It's a bee and pollinator themed children's garden. We brought in the same accessibility features as the Discovery garden that we opened last summer. We have a pizza and a pie garden, a willow tunnel, some seating areas, different exploration stations. We haven't officially opened it yet, but it's been pretty joyful to see kids already start to play in that area. So that we will open that officially in the next couple of weeks. And this garden was generously and fully funded by the Lake Forest Garden Club. So we are super appreciative to them. As we are building this infrastructure in these new program areas, we are also building our mission-based programs. So we recently hired a director of culinary education and workforce development. With our expanded operations, we have more jobs, and we wanted to be able to hire folks who may not traditionally have access to jobs in the food industry. So we have developed a workforce development program. We are prioritizing folks with disabilities. We've partnered with the Center for Enriched Living, and we've hired, I think, 3 to 4 of their members who are young people with disabilities to work on our farm and in our cafe. We also partnered this fall with St. Martin or Cristo Rey St. Martin College Prep, which is a high school in Waukegan. We are a part of their corporate work study program. So we have interns with us every day who are helping with our administrative tasks. So we like that, this helps live our mission of broadening access to opportunities at Elua. We also are expanding our food access work. We hosted our popular soup and bread night in the winter. We transitioned that to burger night during the summer, where we open up tickets to the community. They can have a nice meal at the farm, and a portion of their ticket sales go to support the donation of that same soup and bread or local ground beef to families served by North Chicago community partners. Okay, so that's phase 1, which we are going to wrap up in the next couple of weeks. We will immediately go into phase 2 with opening a visitor center and a dedicated classroom. We just received our first ever USDA grant to be able to promote our Seed to Plate education to underserved communities across Lake County. So we're really excited for that opportunity. So we hope to open these new buildings by the end of Q1 of next year. And then finally, with phase 3, we will repair and enhance our existing kitchen to go back to being a true learning kitchen where we can host more culinary classes for youth and adults, as well as provide some incubator space for food businesses who are looking for commercial kitchen space, as well as install a hoop house so we can have a little bit more crop production and season extension space on the farm. And we hope that will all be completed by next spring, early summer. So we have been busy at Elua, but we are farmers, so we are used to having a busy growing season. Amidst all of the construction, we've been actively fundraising as well. We kicked off a Keep Elua Growing Capital campaign to fund this work. We have raised 1.6 out of $2 million. We also have the opportunity through the city to draw on a loan to help finance the project. We haven't drawn on the loan yet, but we shall see. And then we are hosting our annual fundraiser in a couple weeks on Saturday, September 14th. We still have some tickets left. We are hosting a Michelin star chef from the city, so it's always a really good time at the farm. So thank you all. It's been amazing to see all of this change happen so quickly. We could not have done it without your support and planning. It's been amazing to see, us co-create this vision together and it be so well received by the community. So thank you all very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lauren. As a resident, it's just, whether it's open lands or the opportunities that you bring to us residents is just really gratifying. And seeing your Ellenwood not only grow, thrive, but evolve, especially in more recent years as you adapt to new things. Thank you for everything you do for us.
Yeah, very welcome. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Wilbur.
Laura, I just also wanted to thank you for your leadership. It's really been wonderful to see the growth out there, and I know my son participated in one of the camps this summer, and he learned so much, and it was really great to have those experiences. So thank you for bringing so much to Lake Forest.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you.
all.
Jason, back to you.
Thank you, Laura. That concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next item on our agenda is opportunity for citizens to address City Council. Is anyone in attendance who has anything you'd like to bring to our attention? All right, seeing nobody. Next item on the agenda then is report from our Public Works Committee Director, Mike Thomas. Okay, I guess this is me. Plans for Mr. Thomas will be addressing the plans for Deer Path streetscape, which have been underway for the last few years, dating back to 2016. The city has received an IDOT grant last year for the project, and we're excited to finally see these plans taking shape next year. Tonight, Director Thomas will provide an update on plans for the Deer Path streetscape project, and Director Olson will speak to the project's communications plan. Director Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. This evening, as the Mayor has noted, we're going to provide an update to yourselves and the residents watching at home on the Deer Path Streetscape project. It's been long in the works since 2016. It's going to be a very big project. It's going to have a lot of impact on the city, but in the end, it's going to really beautify, upgrade Deer Path for these 2 or 3 blocks, make things a lot safer, especially for pedestrians. So we're excited to review that with you. Number one. Number two, we are not there yet. We don't have all the questions answered. We're going to be bidding this, or I should say the state's going to be bidding this project over the winter. We're still working through some of our logistics, so we'll be interested to hear your thoughts as well. This evening we'll go through a background of the project, the scope, schedule. We'll discuss the current budget that we're going to need to update, the detour options, and then Dana's going to step in and talk about the communications plan and how we're going to handle it from there. The project location, to begin with, we have the water main project. If you remember last month, we finished the water main across Green Bay Road. We're now going to take it all the way to Western Ave. That's going to happen in the winter months, February and March, 100% funded by the city. The second phase will be the streetscape project. That will be bid out by the state. They will oversee that. That right now is scheduled to begin once the water main contractor is moved out. They will move in April 1st to about October 10th. So project background, there's been, as I noted, a good amount of project background since 2016. Civic Beautification Committee began in 2016 to discuss this. In August of 2019, City Council went ahead and approved the Phase 1 design. Remember, as we apply for grants, we have to go through a Phase 1 design and a Phase 2. So we, City Council, approved that Phase 1 design. September of 2019, the city manager formed the Deer Path Streetscape Advisory Committee. Number of residents, aldermen, et cetera, were on that. The advisory committee finished their plans. It took them about a year or so, presented them to the various boards and commissions to include City Council. We went ahead and submitted an application for an ITEP grant through IDOT in October of 2020. As we noted before, it's a big process to put together a grant application. We went through that. We were notified in June of 21 that we did not receive that. However, we followed up with ITEP and IDOT and basically said, how can we make our application better? What do we need to do? And they gave us some pointers, which primarily was to get phase 2 design completed. So we went ahead, funded that, went into phase 2, and then resubmitted in October of 2022, and then in August of 2023. For that round, we heard that we were successful and the city received just over $2 million in grant for the project. As I noted, the Deer Path Streetscape Advisory Committee Chairman Prue Byler, Alderman Byler chaired the committee. Alderman Rummel was on it as well. This is one of many sessions that we had here at City Hall, and we walked the route multiple times. I'll let you read through the list, but the three primary and really the three drivers of this project, we want to increase the beautification. Right now, as you'll see, it's nothing but concrete and asphalt. So we want to make it much nicer. We've got old infrastructure. As we noted, we got water mains that are 100 years old. The electrical infrastructure is very old. And then finally, improve pedestrian safety. As you can imagine, with all the vehicles, and we've all experienced it with kids running across the street, we're going to add some features on Deer Path to slow traffic down, but really to increase that pedestrian safety so vehicles can see people very early on before they cross. Again, existing conditions, as I had noted, nothing but concrete and asphalt. But then we turn to a rendering that we received about a week ago that gives us a little more specifics on exactly what we're looking at. On the west side, on the left side, is Oakwood Avenue. In Oakwood, we're going to, as well as Western, improve the crosswalks. So we're going to put concrete pavers as the perimeter. That's also a traffic calming device. You know when you're coming into something rather than just striped lines when you have brick pavers. We'll improve the sight lines with these pedestrian bump outs that we refer to them. There will be new sidewalks throughout this corridor, new concrete sidewalks. The masonry wall, so we've got the masonry wall right out here outside of City Hall. We're going to copy and do something very similar across the street in front of the orthodontist and the dermatologist. You'll see that grade change across the street. That's primarily a ComEd vault, a ComEd line. Could we move it? We could. It would cost us an arm and a leg. So we're going to deal with it. We're going to put an architectural feature there with this wall to make it look much more aesthetically pleasing. As I noted, the various bump outs that we'll be doing, the landscape bump outs, we'll be irrigating those as well. Chuck and his team in Parks and Forestry are working on the different species that will be planted, but they've played an integral part of it. The street lighting, we're going to improve street lighting along that corridor as well, but we're going to try and we're going to keep our traditional street lights that we have. So we're not going to, for example, we're not going to put the ones that you see on Waukegan Road, the big, tall, big poles. We're still going to keep that same character light pole that we've always used. I noted the irrigation system as well throughout all these planting beds, and then once everything is done, we will go ahead and resurface Deer Path. That is what Deer Path looks like now, and this is what we envision Deer Path to look like. So again, with those bump outs on the corners, and we will be eliminating a few spaces, but again, the whole purpose is to slow that traffic down and to give those pedestrians, kids after school, et cetera, more sight lines so everybody sees one another. Project schedule, as I had noted, we have got plans, phase 2 plans are due to IDOT at the end of this month. One of the reasons we're coming to you, we're going to talk about phasing. And with the IDOT plans, this is sort of our last chance if we want to put anything in the specification that IDOT will either approve or deny. This is our last chance to make those notes before they go through their whole process, put the project out to bid for a January bid opening. We've got different things that we've got right-of-way certification that is common with all IDOT projects. We've got to confirm that we actually have those, which we do. As I noted, we are going to be bidding out the water main project ourselves, so we're going to be receiving those plans soon. And then we will, like any other one of our projects, we'll put that project out to bid. City water funds will pay for that entirely. We will oversee it. We will manage it. The IDOT bid construction, their bid opening is January 17th. As I noted, the water main will begin in February. Streetscape begins in April. And right now, our estimate is to have construction done October 10th. So the next chart reviews our current budget numbers. And the reason we say current is that since 2016, every year we go through and we relook at these numbers at this time. Our capital plan is due to Jason and Elizabeth here mid-October. So this is yet another opportunity for us to go through all of our numbers, and if there are numbers that need to be increased, either on the water main or the streetscape, this is the time where we do it. The grant is a fixed amount, period. So it's $2,065,000. Anything above that, the city's dime out of the city's capital fund. Again, same goes for the water main. We're paying for that 100%. So the estimate on both the water main and the streetscape project is approximately 4.7. And as I noted, we will be reviewing those numbers over the next 30 days and making any adjustments in our budget requests that you will see in November. So we want to assure the community that we have done this before. Myself and a few others remember Western Ave Streetscape back in 2008, 2007, when we went ahead and redid Western Ave from Laurel all the way up to Westminster. That actually impacted many, many more stores and businesses than this will. They had constant access to the businesses. There's wood structures, wood ramps to the businesses. But it was challenging, but we in the community we got through it. And then obviously Market Square 2000, if you remember that. We had a good amount of infrastructure that we needed to put in within Market Square, as well as all the brick pavers. So again, that really impacted the stores in that area. Recently, obviously, the Deer Path 41 pump station, and then the Burr Oak storm sewer improvements. So the big projects compared to just doing a water main on one block, we've been through this before, and with Dana's help and help from all the departments, quite frankly, because this is really going to be a citywide effort. We're all talking about it. We're all going to continue to talk about it bi-weekly from now until the project begins. So one of the big issues becomes detours. And the water main replacement, as we have put the plans together so far, we're going to be looking to replace the water main from Western to Green Bay on the westbound lane. So westbound Deer Path and the parking spots on westbound Deer Path, that is where the water main will go. And if you can picture an excavator, he's got to have a semi-truck sitting right next to him as they load and simply make their way west, installing pipe. We're going to maintain eastbound traffic. So again, for the months of February and March, when we put this water main in, eastbound traffic from Green Bay to Western will be open. The parking spots will not, because we got to move ourselves over a little bit westbound to give ourselves enough room. But the eastbound lanes will be open for that 2-month period. Drivers can obviously take Illinois and Westminster as well if they so choose, going eastbound. Westbound, they will need to take Westminster or Illinois or Western down to Wesley. So when we get to the streetscape, this is where the discussion comes in with City Council. We have two options, and we've reviewed these options last week with our mayor and Chairman Gosh Gehring of the Public Works Committee. Do we approach this project, as our city manager refers to as ripping the Band-Aid off, which staff prefers, of closing this area from Oakwood to Western Avenue, let all the equipment and materials stage in that area, and get this work knocked out? It's option one. That's what we're going to be recommending. Option two, as you're going to see, is if we do it in two phases. We take Oakwood to Bank, or actually we flip it. We go Western to Bank, first phase, and then second phase would be Bank to Oakwood. So right now with the detours, as we had noted, local traffic will head down Illinois and Westminster. So if we go by, and we're talking about phasing this now, this detour is if we were to phase. The first phase would include the red area on Deer Path. That's the area where we would be working. We would also, and you can see we've blocked off part of Bank Lane. Why? It's the only way you can access Bank Lane currently. So that area would be impacted as well. Forest, heading northbound on Forest and heading north and southbound on Oakwood, would still remain open. But that area east of Bank Lane would be completely closed. So that would be phase one or stage one. When we flip and get stage one done, if that's the preference, we'll then do the western half of the project, and we'll go from Bank Lane to Oakwood. We will use part of Forest as well. That's why you see that part marked off. Excuse me. And again, all the traffic is going to be routing around Illinois and Westminster. On both of these, as well as the full closure, we are going to send the trucks down to Wesley. Here's why. Illinois has got the height restriction on the railroad bridge. Majority of the trucks cannot get under that, number one. Number two, if we were to send the trucks down Westminster to cross over Westminster, we think eastbound they're going to be idling a good amount, number one. Number two, to get them back uptown, they'd have to take Wesley to Sheridan and come on back up Westminster, which we think is probably not a good idea for all the residents living on Westminster. So truck traffic is going to be a challenge. The way we're going to address that is we're going to try and keep Western and Deer Path, that intersection, open for north-south traffic. That is the goal. The engineers have said that it will take approximately an additional week. We had this pegged at October 3rd completion. We're now looking at October 10th because we're going to try and keep Western open north and southbound, and we'll just have to adjust from the west side to the east side. When we get the crosswalk completed on the west side of the intersection, we'll switch it to the east, and then traffic will go northbound and southbound. This is all part of the planning process, and this is when we realized all the Jewel and Fresh Market and Lantern and Walgreens deliveries, they're not coming in small little trucks, they're coming in semis. And those semis have got to go down Wesley, they got to go down Western. We don't think we can put them on Westminster. So that is what we're going to be recommending. So then the full streetscape closure, again, is this entire area from the west side of Oakwood to, we'll call it the western side of Western, and then again we'll flip it. But again, the trucks would make their way down Wesley to Western Ave. So the options, and again, this is, as I had noted previously, this is the discussion point of should we proceed with a full closure, or should we do it in two phases? Working with our design engineer, the design engineer said, you can put it in these two phases, but it's going to take you about a month and a half more, and you'll pay about another 5 to 10% increase in cost. The reason that is we've got all the contractors, concrete, mason, irrigation, electrical, all the different subs, that if we pull them in for phase one, they leave, and then they turn around when their turn comes up in phase two. It's what we refer to as a remobilization cost. They turn around and say, well, we're going to charge you a remob cost. because we got to bring our trucks back in and our guys back in and our material back in. So it is less expensive, A, and B, much more efficient for us to close that down and really work hard with the contractor to get the work done. The important point on all of this is that we're going to maintain the business, the entry to the businesses. Dana's going to show you a couple things that we've done in the past and other towns have done. But businesses are going to be open. We are going to be talking with and working with the businesses on different things we can do to encourage people to still patronize and go to these places. So that really comes down to, that really is the discussion topic. So from there, I'm going to let Dana take it and talk about communication outreach that she and her team have planned for this project.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. As Director Thomas was saying, there's a lot within this project that we can't control. We need to close down the street in order to get that beautiful streetscape. But what we can control is how we talk to people about it and how we can minimize impacts for the impacted stakeholders. And so, as Mike Thomas was saying, pedestrian and business access will be maintained throughout the whole project, and that actually adds to the project duration. In the pictures here, you can see that there's the wooden ramps that are providing access to the businesses, and you'll see there's a lot of activity happening under those ramps. So were we to close everything down and just do the project, it would be a shorter duration. We would never do that because we need to maintain access to the businesses and also have pedestrian access through the corridor. And so that will maintain throughout the project. We'll also have frequent communications with the impacted stakeholders, with the businesses, and with the community, with customers, to provide updates on the status of the work, how things are going. And also, one thing that will help with that is having a dedicated on-site project engineer who will be there if there are issues that arise. They'll be on-site and able to resolve those quickly and ensure that the project moves along smoothly. So for our general communications and outreach, we would have dedicated project updates, similar to some of the other projects that Mike mentioned with the Burr Oak Storm Sewer Project and the Deer Path 41 project. We had a dedicated web page. We would have that again with the option for people to sign up for regular text and email alerts as the project moves forward. And we would share notifications across our digital and print platforms. And we'll focus on making sure people know what to expect if they come to the area, sharing those detour routes, having good signage in the area, but also leaning into what a good project this is going to be. And we know that it's going to be impactful while it's happening, but we want to focus on how it's going to improve pedestrian safety, increase the beautification in that corridor, and provide an opportunity to enhance the infrastructure. And so on the slide here, there's a couple examples of of signs directing people to through a construction area, and we would have something similar, making sure that people know where to go, and also making it clear where parking is available, since there will be some parking that is removed while the project is happening, and so we want to make sure people know where to park to frequent the businesses in that area. And it's early in the process. We're 5 months from when the water main project will start. So we have ideas of things that we can do to help minimize impacts. We'll continue to come up with creative solutions. And one of the ideas that we've come up with so far is converting the lot that's on the corner, the southeast corner of Western and Deer Path, converting that, which is now currently a bus turnaround, converting that into a parking lot so that people will have access to the area, easy access there. But and also the other parking lots on the west side of the tracks, the city lots, making those available for people to park in. And again, we're brainstorming ideas, and we have some to share, but we also want to work with the businesses to come up with what solutions, what they need, and meet with the businesses to see what their needs are and ensure that we can minimize the impacts to their day-to-day operations. And then also find ways to talk to the community about it. So we'll talk with the businesses, but also find opportunities to ask the community, like, what would help make it easier for you to come to this area during construction, and ask the people, our users and our customers and our residents, what we can do to make it easier for them. And so in terms of our next steps, talking about things tonight kind of kicks it off, and then we'll be doing our business outreach, and we'll offer one-on-one meetings with businesses where we'll come with some representatives from the project team, have our project in the box, as I'm calling it, where we can explain what's going to happen and gather information from them on their deliveries or access issues, and make sure that we can come up with a customized plan to get them to minimize impacts as much as possible. And then that will lead into our community education component, where we talk about the project across our various channels, and start doing that soon, talking about it early and often. So we can't change the fact that there needs to be some closures, but we can help people know what to expect and know where they can park, where they can go if they're moving through the area. And we do have plans to have a dialogue cover story on the project in the winter, in December. And we know from our community survey data that the dialogue is one of the top ways that our residents get information about what's happening in the city. So we want to make sure we include it on that channel and across our other channels. Pass it back to Mayor Weiser.
The final slide. The key takeaways. First and foremost, we wanted again to restate that this has been a community outreach since 2016. We've had a lot of input as to what people would like to see on Deer Path. We've had a lot of different people evaluate it, different boards and commissions internally, boards that Kathy works with. So there's been a lot of thought that has gone into that. The road closures are going to be impactful, and we're working hard to try and work with these detours as best we can to think how we can efficiently move traffic as best we can. And then obviously we're going to work as best we can to minimize impact to the residents. That's our number one goal, obviously. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Thomas, Director Olson. All right, firsthand I saw, let's go.
Mike, can you go back to that slide where it shows the street closures in phase 1 and phase 2? I just want to understand what's happening on Western Avenue in all of this.
On all of these, Western Ave north southbound is going to remain open.
So there will be traffic.
It's going to be tight, but we're going to have two-way traffic on Western Ave, whether we do this in 2 stages.
Right.
Or whether we do it in one big, close the whole thing down. North and southbound Western Ave is going to remain open.
So no matter what,
no
people
matter
are going
what,
to be
we're
able
going to
to
figure
drive.
out a way to do it, because deliveries to all these
Right.
businesses, there's no way semis can make that turn on Westminster if they
Right.
come over the tracks and have got to take a right and go to Jewel. That intersection isn't big enough to handle
So-
those semis.
So where this red line goes to Western Avenue, that's to the end of Deer Path? Not into Western, or does it tip in a little?
It goes into Western Ave, because right now, as we start off, we will have the east side of that intersection be the north-south. But at some point, we're going to flip it. We're going to have that portion done,
Right.
and then we'll work on the western side of that intersection.
So then as people come down Deer Path from the east side of town and they get to Western Avenue, they'll be able to turn north or south
Correct,
and then pick up the green
correct,
other ways to go? Okay.
yes.
And Bank Lane's going to become a two-way street again? When we flip
No.
to that side?
No, Bank Lane from Illinois, we will take the one-way, we're going to readjust it back to people allowed to go northbound, northbound
So-
on Bank Lane. So they'll be able to get up to the Pasquesi Building, the bank, and to be able to turn around.
Up to that, so they'll be able to pull into the Northern Trust parking lot or the
Yes.
Midwest Bank? Okay.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So in terms of accessing those businesses, they'll be able to go from either direction?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Alderman Clance.
When it's over,
Was
it's
that it?
going to go back to one
Yeah,
lane?
that's it. Thanks.
Heading
I
south?
believe so.
I don't know if we know the answer to that yet. Kathy? you
Pete, say
wanna-
your question again, I didn't catch it.
When the project, well, it's one lane, it was temporarily set up as one lane going south. on a couple of your slides, it's going north-south.
during
So the
construction.
question is it gonna go back to one lane heading south when all the projects are done?
And I can jump in to say we don't definitively know the answer to that. Subsequent to this presentation, Kathy Zerniak is giving a presentation on the Bank Lane streetscape enhancements, the planning and design processes, which is currently underway. I'll ask her to address that question when she's up in a few minutes.
Is that it, Alderman Clemmons? All right, Alderman Walter.
Thank you. Director Thomas, when they do the water main work between Green Bay Road and Oakwood, you're gonna open up the street and then you're gonna repave that, patch it. Will we repave the entire width of that street between Green Bay and Oakwood to make it a nice, smooth, uniform blacktop all the way then, once the streetscape's completed from Green
Yes.
Bay to
So
train tracks?
the resurfacing, in the end, September timeframe, we will resurface Deer Path from Green Bay to Western, yes. I will say during the months of February and March into April, when Baker is not open and they are not making asphalt, we use a product called Cold Patch. And it sinks a lot. We'll have the contractor coming back to put more material in. But as soon as we can get a better patch done when Baker is cooking, then we'll put a better patch in, and then yes, the whole thing will be resurfaced.
All right, thank you. You're looking for input from the council specific to items that should be included in the specifications because you need that by the end of this month. So some things to consider is a very aggressive dust control program,
Okay.
as well as potentially a program, and washing the windows of the businesses to clean them and keep them clean throughout the project. I was recently in Naperville, and they had a similar project going on, and it was, my wife and I were like, I left that downtown just feeling dirty. So we need an aggressive dust mitigation program, water frequently put on the streets, whatever the case may be, but please read those specifications.
Okay. Sure.
Make sure it's thorough.
Yep.
With regards to signage, obviously the contractor will be taking control of signage for any traffic control signs, but I might encourage the city to take control of signage for pedestrian traffic, particularly with regards to how pedestrians get to and from businesses. The reason I say that is I think the city can be more responsive, quicker to respond to our business needs, our businesses who want to make sure their signs don't get knocked over, they're kept clean, they're visible. I think we could be more responsive than the contractor.
Sure.
For pedestrian
idea.
signage. Just something to contemplate. You mentioned creative solutions, Dana. I noticed you created parking spaces, potentially using the Metro lot. But what about approaching businesses within the area that have parking that's not always utilized? The two banks that are at the corner of Deer Path and Bank Lane. They're not always using their parking spaces. Can we encourage them to share some of their excess parking and then appropriately sign it so that people could park there to get a haircut or to get an ice cream cone and not feel like they're going to get towed? So that might be a creative opportunity.
And I'll just note on that point, we have discussed that internally, and I think it's something we'll explore with those property owners in the coming months.
Oh, very good. And then in terms of community outreach, another opportunity for you, Dana, maybe to include would be asking one of the businesses that currently is a business within the area that's unoccupied. We could put up a display in their windows with renderings of what's to happen. You could have sidewalk displays in the months leading up to the event where you and your team are on the sidewalk with signage out in front of Starbucks, out in front of Sweets, around the neighborhood to show people as they're walking through the community what's going to be coming and what's going to be happening. Some ideas for you.
Great ideas, Rich. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Weber.
Thank you.
I had a great presentation. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that. In terms of feedback for the road closure, my preference would be closing it all at one time, getting it done quicker. Because we're asking people, truck traffic and parking is going to be limited and people will be avoiding the area. So the shorter amount of time that we can ask people to deal with the inconvenience and the business owners, the better. With that, a couple of things. Being on civic beautification the last few years, this project was really done before I came onto the council at that level, but a couple of things we saw with Chuck Myers had shared with us these renderings with the trees, and there were some comments that were brought up about species selection and about the maintenance and pruning. We have a very lean city staff in all of our departments. They're excellent workers. They are very responsive, but the fact remains when we have species that are going to need to be pruned to keep away from basically growing into the businesses, to the buildings, I think that really needs to be looked at. Another thought I had was in regards to the paver crosswalk maintenance. I frequently am walking in town, particularly at Western and Illinois, and those pavers are not even. And when you're pushing strollers and you've got kids on bikes and scooters, although they should be walking once they cross the street, or if you've got anybody in high heels that are headed to a fancy restaurant, it's difficult to walk on those. So I just want us to really be conscious about what the maintenance level is going to be required from our staff and our teams to keep it flush and even. Because as you mentioned, we have a lot of truck traffic that comes down through those roads, and over time, how things sink and crumble and move, even right outside of Walgreens right now. It's not even. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was, we know parking is going to be a challenge, and one of the things that I had mentioned with Chief Burke and our opportunity to speak with him prior to his appointment tonight was about parking enforcement. And with business employees, for very convenient reasons, park right near the businesses that they are working at. And how do we handle parking enforcement for that to really ensure that the customers can get where they need to go? I'm just envisioning people walking 2 blocks with armloads of packages to get to the UPS store, and how are they going to get the packages out? How is the garbage going to be emptied out of Bank Lane, out of those dumpsters? So I know you're working hard on it, but those are some of the things that we need to have communicated to the business owners and to the residents and customers. How can they get there? How can they do it efficiently? Will there be carts? I don't know. Will we have a couple of carts in a parking lot like the Jewel, and so people can wheel their stuff? I know you're going to do it top notch, however you do it, and we're excited about the outcome. But those are just a couple of thoughts I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Weber. Yeah, John, just before we come back. Go ahead. Go ahead.
With the ramps, are they from the middle of the street into each of the store? I don't understand logistically how these ramps operate, or where you get them, or where you cross into, or any of it.
Depending upon how within that area it is being staged and phased. So I would envision, excuse me, for example, if we think of the businesses, Sweets, UPS, Fred's, taking it from the curb edge all the way up to the front door when we are doing, obviously, the concrete work. But we've got to work with the business, because there's got to be a point in time where we've got to pour in front of them, and we've got to let it cure. But the ramp will allow us to get underground work done in that area, and people still being able to access those businesses.
Okay, so is the ramp from the middle of the street then?
No, from the curb edge, not from the middle of the street. I would think from the edge of curb across the sidewalk area to the business. Depending again on, we're not sure of the phasing yet within the actual construction, but we're assuming that they're going to be working on all the utilities. They're going to want to excavate, they're going to work on the utilities, then the concrete's going to come in.
The street itself is closed.
Correct.
And torn up, and nobody's stepping foot on Deer Path Road.
We will have all the equipment and material, yes.
All along the sidewalk.
All the equipment and material is going to be staged on Deer Path.
Okay.
The employees that are there, the construction workers, are going to be parking there
On
on Deer Path.
So I want to get from Walgreens to the UPS store.
Mhm.
I'm going to come out of Walgreens and I'm walking along a non-existent sidewalk?
You'll be, we're only going to, and I didn't say this correctly, we're only going to tear it out when we're ready to put it back in. So in other words, we're not going to tear it out and let it sit for 4 months. But if we're on the concrete phase of getting utilities underneath there, or if there are none, simply pulling out the sidewalk and putting in, then yes, you're going to have to walk out in the street.
Okay.
None of us envision that they're going to come in, tear out the sidewalk, and there's going to be nothing there for 4 months. But again, project hasn't been bid. We usually have a very large pre-construction meeting with IDOT and the contractors, and we get into those details to say, how do we approach this?
Okay, I just didn't get it from the picture. I didn't understand the logistics of how this was going to work.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yes, Pete?
Well, if you look at the picture, it looks like it's going from the curb on one side of the street to the curb on the other side of the street. Is that what's happening?
I'm not sure where we pulled
I think
those
that's just an
pictures.
Yeah, I think
example.
it's just an example.
What a
It's
walk would
illustrative,
look like,
just
yeah.
an example of what it could look like. It's not.
We're really showing a wood ramp that's crossing an uneven area that provides access to the business. So,
Well, what's the guy standing on, that's taking the picture, in the bottom picture? Is he on the sidewalk on the other side of the street?
Keep in mind, that's just an illustration of.
Yeah, and I think, the point I would emphasize again, that knowing that this project is still 6 months away, we acknowledge that there are still a lot of questions that we need to navigate. We don't have all the answers here tonight. This is all really great feedback for staff to consider as we're working with the successful contractor. All things that will get worked out in time. It's, again, a little unusual that we would be before the council on a construction project 6-7 months before the project's scheduled to begin. But because of that, some of these questions we just don't have the answers to tonight. But I will just emphasize, as Mike and Dane have said, that staff's motivation in this will be minimizing the adverse impact to the business community and maximizing accessibility for residents and patrons to the extent we can.
Director Thomas, a couple questions. Toward the point of minimizing the impact, particularly on the businesses between Bank Lane and Western Avenue, the phased approach would increase our overall timeline from 6 months to 7.5. But if we looked at doing the Bank Lane to Western Avenue section in 1 month, or in one phase, are we now talking those businesses are only impacted for 3 to 3.5 months instead of 6 to 6.5 months?
Would they be opened back up? Yes, we will not have the final asphalt in by any means, and I highly doubt we're going to have the parallel parking in. You know, we're going to have to come in with the different layers of asphalt to build the road back up. We do that one time. We're not going to bring in. We want a solid seam from Western to Green Bay, but yes, that would be the idea if you were to phase it. But again, more cost, more time.
Right, but and again, I believe I'm sold on the get it done route, but I want to be factually correct that if we phased it, the disruption to the stores would be shortened. While the work might not be done, their overall disruption could be shortened from 6 to 3 to 3.5 months. Is that
Fair statement? Yes, I would think so. I would think so. Again, not knowing yet how the contractor is going to want to phase this. We talk about this constantly, and we have in our mind how we think they are going to want to do it. But specifically to answer your question, if we were to break it in, could these other businesses be open and not have that significant impact? Yes. I will say, though, One of the issues that I forgot to note is if we go into 2 phases, all this material and equipment is gonna have to find a home, right? If we take this area western to Oakwood, we've got enough laydown area for equipment, materials for the workers to park. If we simply say we're gonna leave Bank to Oakwood open, and we're gonna work on the eastern half first, I think gonna have to go into this Oakwood lot across the street to start staging and putting some of this material and equipment. From an efficiency standpoint, they're gonna wanna order as much stuff as they can and get it on site all at once and bring their equipment. So I think that part of that Oakwood lot may come into play.
I appreciate
so-
it. Just,
Yeah.
it was that question that, the unasked question. 2 more questions. We talked about allowing pedestrians to get across Bank Lane, across Deer Path at Bank Lane. So it's not just accessing from a sidewalk to a storefront, but like if they were let's, for argument's sake, they were parking at the Northern Trust parking lot and wanted to go to Suites. Are you envisioning that some sort of ramp structure would be created that would allow someone to access the north Deer Path side businesses from the south?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Part of the reason this is, in my opinion, taking longer is that we're going to be doing as much as we can to keep those businesses open and to really maintain as easy access as we can, versus if we were to come in on a stormwater project and just start tearing up the road, and we're starting at one end, we're staging materials, and we're just going. And we'll maintain access for residents' driveways, but that's done by a steel plate. Or we're gonna backfill some CA6 overnight, but we're going. This takes some time, and that's what's going to slow this down, is that we're really trying to make that extra effort to keep those businesses viable and to keep having people continue to come and use those businesses. That slows some things down. When there are people walking across the street and walking up and down the block, and you've got a skid steer, you got a backhoe, you got semis, you got cement mixers, you've got end loaders, safety is number one, and that slows things down a little bit. But that's the way it has to be. So.
My last question is, again, toward the end of doing whatever we can for these businesses and maximizing whatever visibility they have from across the street. And where my concern is you've got construction activity happening right next to the sidewalks. And obviously there's a balance, making sure that someone walking along the sidewalk is not accidentally falling into a trench being dug for the water main.
Right.
So as you're thinking through whether it's fencing or solid, whatever, just that it's low enough to solve whatever safety concerns we have, but not so high that you're now blocking view lines to storefronts.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
to have that in mind.
Yep. No, it's a good point. And again, we want to maintain safe access to these businesses. So that, again, that's going to be the primary focus, and obviously keeping this job site safe. But that slows things down. It's not a bad thing, but that's the world of construction. The guy's constantly looking over his shoulder, running an end loader or a skid steer. He's gonna have to in this project, and that slows things down. But the fact for the business is, yes, we're gonna make sure that those businesses are completely accessible and that it is safe to get in and out. And the contractors are gonna know full well that they need to stop and let people go in and out to these places.
Thank you.
Stores.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
so sorry, I have one more. Do you have a slide of what the total closure looks like? Not the phases, but just, that's the whole thing. That's what we'd be living with for the
April 1st to October.
October 10th.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And again, sending trucks down Green Bay to Wesley to Western.
Right. I just wanted to see the total impact in one piece.
You know,
Any
and one
other
of the other things that
questions?
we're gonna, you know, Matt Berjoni, our street supervisor, is here with us this evening. One of the things Matt is gonna be working on will be the coordination of all these streetlights. So Deer Path in Green Bay and Wesley in Green Bay, they are our stoplights. Illinois and Western, it's our stoplight. And we'll work with our contractor to adjust timing if need be, because we're gonna have to observe this when St. Mary's gets out, when Country Day gets out, when the middle school gets out. And in addition to that, cars are heading eastbound on Deer Path. We've got to see how the traffic lights are working, and we're gonna need to adjust those as well, so.
Are you gonna do anything for people making a left turn on Westminster onto South Green Bay Road?
Left on Westminster to go south, haven't gotten there yet. I mean, you're right. If we're sending vehicles, cars up to Westminster, not all of them are gonna take a right on Westminster, and it'll be a bear getting out onto Green Bay.
It'll be worse.
Right, right. Yes.
Director Thomas, next steps for city council, or Jason, is this, you're looking for guidance from us this evening, or this is just a conversation?
Ideally, if there is a consensus, it would be helpful to have that this evening. I know we need to provide feedback to IDOT by the end of the month. So if there's more information that were needed, we could come back on the 16th, but I'll leave that up to you. As Director Thomas said, we did meet with Mayor Tack and Public Works Chair Gash Garian last week. They were both in support of the full closure and getting the project done as quickly as possible for whatever that's worth. But again, we're here to answer questions and get your feedback, and it's ultimately up to your comfort level on providing direction tonight or not.
Is that a show of hands? Just an
Yeah, it's not, no formal vote is required. I think just kind of perhaps, you know, individually sharing your opinion, I know several already have, is sufficient in this case.
Well, I'll jump in real quick. I think the city has substantial experience in this space, and it's proven to be efficient and effective. Although it's always disruptive to the community, I think the best thing to do is shut the whole thing down, get the project done the right way, as efficiently as possible and as safe as possible, and go from there. Because we're all going to love it when it's done. We're not going to necessarily love it during the process, but I mean, there's so much work that's gone on into this that I think it's going to be fantastic once we complete it. So thanks for the presentation.
I mean, I'm hearing that we're all supportive of the Band-Aid, pull the Band-Aid off and run. Am I hearing differently from anyone?
No, I'd just add one other point. I think Director Thomas pointed out that we will be providing construction oversight. Is that correct?
We will be hiring, well, it's gonna be a duo. We will, because it's a grant and an IDOT project, we will be hiring a Phase 3 construction engineer who will be managing the overall inspections, coordinated with us.
Yeah.
And they will actually manage all the IDOT paperwork as well. But we're going to have our engineering staff right next to the Phase 3 engineer. So you're gonna have a lot of eyes on it. Dana's team, we're gonna have people all over it.
So I think with that being said, I think the city has an opportunity to be a very vocal spokesman during the course of construction. So if they see an opportunity, let's say as an example, that the sidewalk between Oakwood and Bank Lane in front of the orthodontist is near being done, they could encourage the contractor, hey, finish that section up as quick as you can, open it up so that we can, you know, relieve the stress on those businesses. And so I think we can find opportunities to do that. That being said, I would be in favor of the do it all at once approach.
All right.
Rest assured, we very well know, and we are gonna be pushing as hard as we can to get this done as quickly as we can. So, we know you know that, we've done it, but this one's gonna be fun, so. Thank you for all your input. We appreciate your ideas.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'd like to say the work's only just begun, but that would be understating and overstating both. All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda, our Director of Community Development, Kathy Cerniak, will presenting the Bank Lane Streetscape Enhancement Plan, the planning and process update. With that, welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Pro Tem Mayor Notes. Did I say that right? Members of the council, you up for one more presentation? It'll be shorter, it'll be easier, promise. Bank Lane is about 2 years behind Deer Path streetscape. So we are in the planning stage, but there is an opportunity with all the work you just heard about to make sure if there is some work, particularly just north and south of Bank Lane, that should be coordinated while we have, as you saw, portions of Bank Lane will be closed. We really want to be able to coordinate that so that we're not ripping up what we've done with Deer Path. Bank Lane Streetscape Enhancement Plan. I want to review what it is and why we're doing it. Talk a little bit about the process to date. Talk about the concepts that have come out of the process to date, and then talk about next steps. What it is. It is, as I just said, this is the planning process. What will be the outcome of this process is a plan that will identify possible enhancements to Bank Lane all the way from the south end at Vine Avenue, going all the way to Wisconsin Avenue. A lot of people, when you think about Bank Lane, you think about that portion of Bank Lane that's immediately adjacent to Market Square. But I can tell you, those people who have condos that look over the south part of Bank Lane, they know they're on Bank Lane and they'd like some enhancements there too. Why we're doing this, over the years we periodically have usually appoint some kind of a group to study the Central Business District. I don't know, every 7 years, every 10 years. And each time those groups made up of different people have walked the Central Business District, when they get to Bank Lane, almost every time people have said, gosh, this is really a cool street and it could really be something. But in the past, we've always put it off, thinking, let's wait until some redevelopment occurs, let's wait until we know what's happening with the post office. But this time, when you saw the comprehensive update to the central business chapter of the comp plan, with this vision, looking forward, the vision is not to change the central business district into something different, something more akin to business districts in other communities, but instead to enhance and preserve the historic character and architecturally significant buildings and, importantly, spaces, and to maintain an environment in which businesses thrive and a place residents and visitors are drawn to again and again for day-to-day needs, a special night out, to find a one-of-a-kind gift, and to celebrate the community. That was the vision that this council approved as part of the comprehensive plan update. And a key part of that 18-month discussion was talking about opportunities for Bank Lane. Every time the advisory group got into a discussion about something else, it seemed like every time they met, we ended up at Bank Lane. So with your direction, instead of all agreeing that Bank Lane could be something special and let's do it in the future, you directed that we develop a plan. Bank Lane is different than Deer Path. What this plan will be, what we know, because you did authorize and Public Works Department did undertake an assessment of all of the infrastructure in the Central Business District. What we know is we're not looking at the need to replace a major water main on Bank Lane. We're not looking at some big infrastructure project. We know that Bank Lane, unlike Deer Path, is very narrow in areas, and that it is not a main arterial, certainly not a main arterial through our Central Business District, but actually lends itself to a pedestrian corridor. Unlike Deer Path Streetscape Plan, the Bank Lane plan will also lend itself to being implemented incrementally. As I said, some pieces might be completely appropriate to incorporate with the Deer Path Streetscape, but what you've heard already is going to be disruptive. We certainly couldn't undertake a project at the same time that closed the intersection of Bank Lane in Wisconsin and Bank Lane in Westminster and Bank Lane in Illinois. So it's just simply not feasible to, or necessary to do that a project in the same way. The other very different thing about Bank Lane is that as you walk up and down Bank Lane, I'm sure you can all point to properties that have some real and perhaps near-term potential for redevelopment, from one end to the other. At one end, you have the infamous 222 building. Some would call it a landmark, others not so much. What we do know is that unlike on Deer Path, Bank Lane has in certain areas above-ground utilities. If you're sitting at Hometown Coffee and looking south, you see those above-ground utilities. If you walk the block between Illinois and Vine, you see those above-ground utilities. So those are some real differences between Deer Path plan, streetscape enhancement plan, and Bank Lane. So why we're doing it, it's time. This council said it's time. And what it is will be a plan that will look at the entirety of Bank Lane and really set expectations and be a roadmap for Public Works, for this council to look at as we do other projects, and perhaps some improvements can be integrated with other projects, but it can also be a clear indication of the city's expectations as properties up and down Bank Lane are redeveloped. So moving on, our process to date, late June, we began with a feedback, a community input session without any plans, without any direction. We had about 70 people come into this room, a couple different sessions. We had personally invited businesses along Bank Lane and those in the area, and also residents. We also engaged people at a Thursday night concert. We had a table there, so a concert in the square, and tried to get input from people as we stood along Bank Lane. More recently, we had a follow-up work session in here where the Lakota group, our consultants, had taken that feedback from late June and put it on 10-foot-long images of Bank Lane with different ideas, and we got feedback on those concepts. We did provide an online survey, and we'll be putting another up shortly to get some additional input on the concepts as they're now developed. So I mentioned Bank Lane, the entire length, Wisconsin at the north end, Vine at the south end. One of the concepts that came out of the discussion was that, is there a way to unify Bank Lane? Are there things we can do to make it feel like a unique pedestrian corridor, to really increase, as one of our residents said, the moments of surprise that you find as you're walking along Bank Lane, whether it's an alley, whether it's the unique hardscape that the Deer Path Inn had installed in their valet area. Is there a way to increase the number of those special moments that people experience? And is there a way to connect that? Is there a way to really make Bank Lane a walkable corridor for those residents who live in condos behind Egg Harbor and behind Chief's Pub? Is there a way to entice people who live south of the Central Business District to walk that corridor? Just really thinking about ways to take advantage of this unique road that's limited in length, is interrupted by Market Square, but is certainly unlike any other place in our Central Business District. We looked at it as a whole, and as you see here, we looked at individual blocks, recognizing that each block is very unique and serves a different function. Based on discussions to date and the concepts developed to date, we talked about ideas for unifying features that could unify Bank Lane, whether it's lighting, whether it's treatments at the intersections. Alderman Weber, with attention to making sure those are walkable and maintainable for our public works staff. Looking at hardscape materials. We have a palette of hardscape materials that we're using on Deer Path. How do we bring those around the corner? Do they remain the same? Are there slight variations? Do the hardscape materials have some consistency but change as we move north and south? how do we take advantage of the limited opportunities to add landscaping? We want to be sure that if we identify landscaped areas, that they are sustainable. We've seen that in other areas. We don't want to put in tree grates that don't support trees and then become a jar. So really looking at what kind of landscape treatments, and maybe that's baskets, or maybe that's something, in some areas, something other than planting in the ground. Do we look at wider sidewalks? Do we look at narrower streets in some areas and wider streets in other areas? Currently, in many areas of Bank Lane, we don't have curbs. We have a sidewalk that simply terminates at the street. Should we look at curbless streets in some of those areas? I'm actually getting into differences. Unifying features. Seat walls. You heard Michael Thomas mention seat walls. Really picking up on the seat wall in front of City Hall, replicating it, or at least having it serve as an inspiration for a knee wall across the street. Is there a unique knee wall that picks up on features from Market Square and from City Hall that we can design for Bank Lane, that really signifies that Bank Lane is somewhere special? As properties redevelop, maybe there are different places where this knee wall gets dropped in. People can use it for gathering or sitting. Maybe it has a unique feature. Undergrounding utilities came up often, but again, that's something that usually is part of some other kind of project. It is very expensive. Looking at fewer curb cuts, both on private properties. If you look at the block just south of Deer Path, Midwest Bank has 2 curb cuts, Northern Trust has 2 curb cuts. We have a curb cut for the parking deck we share with the bank. The bank has a curb cut into the ATM. Is there an opportunity, even looking to the north in the city parking lot, which has access both from Oakwood and from Bank Lane? Could some of that area be closed off to make pedestrians feel more comfortable, more welcome, and really give pedestrians more space? In some areas of Bank Lane, you almost have to walk single file if you're walking with someone on a sidewalk. Public art. Is there some way that we can, again, identify some kind of a unique feature that could be repeated, so as people walk from the Deer Path in to Market Square and then on to Hometown Coffee, they know they're somewhere special. They're in a place that they will remember. What we consistently heard is keep it simple. Don't follow the trend of the day. In many other communities, you'll see banners and arches and many different features, but really recognizing that Bank Lane really is a small space. We need to be careful to balance what we're doing there to not make it feel overdone or cluttered. So simple, high quality, and aligned, not necessarily matching the character of both Market Square, Deer Path, and taking advantage of some features from City Hall. As we move to recognizing the unique features of each block, we know that some blocks are essential in providing trash pickups and deliveries to businesses. So we need to be aware of that. We know that some blocks feel better to walk. If you're walking from Deer Path to Market Square, it usually feels better than if you're walking the block south, where it feels a bit more wasteland is too strong of a word, a bit less welcoming. Some blocks have on-street parking. We heard from some businesses that having some on-street parking on Bank Lane is really important to them. How do we do that? Are there ways that we can easily, quickly, safely close streets on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night to allow businesses to spill out into the street safely and easily, and perhaps more elegantly? Certainly we close streets off for the Deer Path Art Fair, but is there a way we can do it more elegantly? We know there are solutions out there. Some blocks have more redevelopment potential than others. Again, this is different than most of Deer Path. There's some properties on Deer Path that have that potential, but Bank Lane, there's a number. Portions of Bank Lane have the opportunity to provide connections and vistas both to the east and west. If you think of the parking lot to the south of Northern Trust, is there an opportunity as Bank Lane gets improved to create a pedestrian connection? Perhaps some kind of a vista with an endpoint that takes you through to Western, that helps people move through, encourages them to move through different parts of our central business district. Some of you may remember that when Bank of America, when that site was redeveloped on the southwest corner of Wisconsin and Western, that as part of that, in order to allow a bank to go in there, which had been at that point and still is required to be approved through a special use permit, the council required a retail business and required that pedestrian connection, which walks right by their ATM, a direct connection that wasn't there from the Corda parking lot, the city lot, through to Western. Are there more opportunities for that? Street width, sidewalk width. Are there some areas as property redeveloped that we want to request additional right-of-way, or that we want to request an easement to allow sidewalks to be wider? I mentioned the available of parking areas, and public property and private property, and that's incorrect up there. Private property and public right-of-way. There are some areas where private properties abut Bank Lane and could really benefit from some cleanup. Are there ways that we can incent those property owners and encourage them with an overall plan to do their part and make those improvements? So those are just some of the concepts that have come up so far. We have completed the engage and assess process. We are at the end of the visioning and feedback process. We're now in the process of developing a final plan, which will again be put out for some final comments. And again, we'll be looking closely at developing details in the very near term for those areas just north and south of Bank Lane. Next steps, we did last week present the plan, the early concepts, to the Historic Preservation Commission. We'll be working through some final design concepts. We will be before the Plan Commission in early October, and we will be back to the City Council within 30 to 45 days for your direction and input. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Kathy, does anyone have any questions for Kathy?
Well, you did say you were gonna follow up on that one-way.
I did.
South, and I'll just point out that the two renderings that one that was in your presentation, the one that was in Mike's, appear to show a one-way street going south on Bank Lane off of Deer Path.
And the answer to your question is we don't know yet. So it is, we've heard, there's been discussions about the direction of traffic all up and down Bank Lane. So it's been interesting. But I'm sure there will be options that'll be presented.
Anybody else? Well, a lot of hard work, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're chugging our way through. Next item on our agenda is the items for omnibus vote consideration. I'm going to first read off all of the items. When I'm done, if there are any items you would like removed, let me know. 9 items in front of us are: 1, approval of the August 5th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2, approval of the check register for the period of July 27th to August 23rd, 2024. 3, consideration to amend the approved 2024 regular meeting schedule for the Lake Forest City Council. Number 4, consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirements in connection with holding a raffle in the city of Lake Forest for Northwestern Medicine Lake Forest Hospital. Approval by motion. Approval to renew agreement for Enterprise Resource Management System software maintenance. Number 6, authorize the Office of the City Manager to enter into a 1-year extended term power supply agreement with MC Squared Energy Services, LLC. Number 7, approval of an additional 3-year professional service agreement with Invoice Cloud for credit card processing services and integration with the city's ERP system. 8, approval of the recommendation from the Public Works Committee to award a contract to John Keno and Company for the Forest Park Beach Sand Restoration Project. in the amount of $258,120 plus 4% contingency in the amount of $10,000 for a total of $268,120. Number 9, approval of a Public Works Committee recommendation of an award to a bid to Autobomb Company Incorporated for the Gorton Community Center chimney tuck pointing project in the amount of $67,800. If there is no comment and no items wish to be removed and taken into consideration separately, I ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing.
Great, can we have a roll
Roll
call?
Oh, roll call, okay.
Excellent. Alderman Weber,
Aye.
Alderman Walder,
Aye.
Alderman Novit, Alderman Clemmons,
Aye.
Alderman Notes,
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
That's 6 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Terrific, thank you. Next item on the agenda is old business, and nothing is on tonight's agenda. Item number 7, new business, nothing more tonight. Item 8, city council, let's see, are there any members of the city council who have anything else they'd like to add or discuss before we adjourn to executive session? Okay. With that, there will be no further business following the executive session, which we're about to adjourn into. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2C1. The city council will be discussing personnel. I'd like to ask for a second and then Biddy for a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Okay.
Can we
Roll
take
call,
another
please.
roll call on that one? Thank you. Alderman Walder,
Aye.
Alderman Novit. Aye. Alderman Clemmons,
Aye.
Alderman Notes,
Aye.
Alderman Powers,
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
6 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
All right, we will be adjourning to executive session. There'll be no further business after that we conclude.
Thank you.
That's all you need from me now, right, Biddy?
Good job.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you.
I tell you. I'm so convinced.